Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the fifth part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 21, Fu's Notes. Hello there. My name is Izuku Midoriya. It wasn't always that, but that's what it is now. After seeing my father's journals, I thought it might be fun to write down everything about my siblings, their personalities, and their quirks. After all, I'm surrounded by such interesting people, I'd be ashamed not to. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku is my dad. He took me and Kiba, more on her later, in and gave us a place to stay and things to eat. He made sure my quirk would never act up again. I can never repay him for all he's done. Not that he'd want me to. Aside from his green hair and freckles, he's rather plain looking. Izuku is the nicest person to ever exist. He holds no grudges, does not judge anyone, and rarely ever gets angry. He only ever seems to get upset when something harms someone he cares about. Or in some of my siblings' cases, when they harm themselves. He only really grounds us if we hurt each other or ourselves. Of course, that means I've never got in trouble with him. That also means I don't get much of his attention. But that's fine. He's very busy. He is in charge of taking care of all the kids that fall under the title of OPC, basically all the most dangerous children in the country whose parents don't want them. As you can imagine, it's a hard job. Made harder by his trust issues, keeping him from hiring anyone to help him. The fact he keeps stumbling upon kids by accident in weird situations with dangerous powers makes things, well, either better or worse, I can't fully tell. Dad is quirkless. Meaning he has no quirk whatsoever. Naturally, the world did what it normally does to people who are different. They mistreated and abused him. But like I said, he's the nicest person ever, so he's not angry about it. Although that doesn't mean I'm not. Kiba Midoriya. Kiba may have only become my official sister after Dad took us in, but honestly it feels like we've been siblings for much longer. She found me trying to steal food and helped me in exchange for my blood. After she found out about my quirk, she insisted that I become one of her minions. She was better company than no company at all, so I agreed. Best decision of my life. Kiba has long silver hair and red eyes. Her skin is very pale and she has long pointy fangs. She always wears a red cloak she and Dad made. Kiba is, at the best of times, obnoxiously loud, overly full of herself, and very simple-minded. But somehow she takes all those bad traits and makes them into good ones, most of the time. Imagine watching a cheesy actor play Dracula. That's how she acts, all the time. She insists that she is the vampire queen of eternal darkness and that she will someday take over the world. How is she gonna do that? No one knows. Not even her. She's very entertaining to watch, and given how much she loves attention, that's a good thing. Unfortunately, she does have a fragile ego, and can't stand losing or the idea of losing. But I think Dad is trying to do something about that. Another thing Dad tried to improve is her habit of breaking things. Kiba is very strong, and while she's not dumb, she's not exactly smart either, despite what her vocabulary would lead you to believe. This leads to her breaking a lot of things. A lot of things. Dad's very forgiving of this, of course, so she doesn't really get grounded. But whenever she destroys something big, he puts her through an hour of restraint training. Kiba's quirk is called Blood Boost. The more blood she intakes, the stronger, faster, and more durable she gets. At full power she can outrun some cars and lift cars with ease. However, the more active she is, the more blood is used up, and she needs blood to live. So she needs to be careful about how much she strains herself. Kiba's main weakness, Bedsy's lack of blood, is the sun. Not because of her quirk, Kiba was dedicated to her act that she avoided to the sun for too long, and now her body isn't used to it. I did mention she wasn't that smart, didn't I? Eri Midoriya. Eri is the most mysterious out of any of us. Her backstory is almost a complete mystery to everyone but Izuku and Kyoko, more on her later. And I do mean everyone but those two. Apparently, it was so bad that they had to make her forget about most of it. From what we do know, Eri's quirk went out of control and accidentally killed her father. Her mother abandoned her and gave her to a really bad man who was in charge of a group of really bad men who did bad things to her. Izuku saved her. She was the first of the kids that Izuku adopted. Eri has white hair and red eyes, with her only other notable feature being her horn. Eri is extremely shy and prefers to stay quiet and out of the way most of the time. This means that most people don't notice her or hear her over the louder kids. Dad wants me to make sure this doesn't happen, but it's hard. Eri's quirk lets her rewind things back to a previous state. Basically, she can return things back to how they were before. Like if you ate an apple, she could take the apple core and turn it back into an apple. This quirk is really cool, but it also has two big downsides. The first one is that she gets really tired if she uses it for too long. And the second is that it's really hard to control, and the consequences if something goes wrong can be disastrous. Like that time she rewound her father to before he existed. Which makes no sense to me. If she can bring something back to how it was, then how can she bring something back to when it never was? But anyway, she could accidentally make you younger or turn you into a monkey. Apparently it's because of something called evolution, or take your quirk away. Izuku and her train twice a week so she can better control it. He uses a metal ruler. Eri's quirk can't affect non-living things, so he doesn't have to touch her, and he has a trank gun, a gun that shoots needles that puts you to sleep, in case things go bad. As dangerous as her quirk is, it could also be used to save a lot of people. She could heal a person about to die back to full health, reattach lost limbs, cure incurable diseases. She would be a great doctor. Eri seems to have a strong fear of birds. Eri's quirk seems to come from her horn. The longer her horn is, the more powerful her quirk is. Eri seems to hate herself a little because of her quirk. I know how that feels. We all want to protect her. I hope we can. I hope someday we can make her smile. Midoriya. Once upon a time I thought Kiba was the most energetic person in the world. Then I met Kei. If I didn't know what Kei's quirk was, I would have guessed it was infinite energy because she is always active. She is also very optimistic. Which is strange because the world, Natoli, treated her terribly. She has snakes for hair and snake-like eyes, so naturally people thought she looked a bit scary. And instead of just getting over it, her parents kicked her out and everyone called her a freak and a monster. Her quirk didn't help. Anyone who looks at her eyes turns to stone. Powerful, hard to fight against, really inconvenient to live with. She can't turn it off either, so she just had to live a life of trying to never stare people in the eyes for a while. Then a villain kidnapped her, and used her as a living weapon for some time until Izuku saved her and took her in. The way she approaches her life in an upbeat, positive attitude is really admirable in my opinion. A lot of people like to complain about their lives, she just tries to improve hers. Anyway, back to her quirk. The effect of her quirk lasts exactly 1 day, or 24 hours. During the entire process, the victim is completely immobile as well as being made of stone, meaning it is rather easy to harm or kill them. According to Izuku, when you're frozen you don't see or hear anything, and when you're unfrozen you basically continue where you left off. The snakes on her hair are also interesting. They aren't poisonous, but they can bite you. Kei has said that they're technically alive, they're extensions of herself. Maybe they're multiple personalities? Either way, it's a simple but effective quirk. Although Kei hasn't shown any interest in using them and has a special face thing to keep herself from using them. It's probably a good thing, but still I just can't stop thinking about the possibilities. Sansen Midoriya. Sansen is the weirdest member of our family right now. I think I'll have to start with her quirk here, otherwise nothing else will make sense. Sansen is a sentient pile of acidic goo. Able to move and change her shape completely. Now that I think about it. I call her a she and she takes the form of a girl, but she could be either one if she wanted to. Was she born a girl or did she just choose to be one at one point? Back to what I was saying. She was born with her quirk and accidentally killed her mother when she was born, because acid. Her family didn't want her and threw her around from person to person, and of course they mistreated her because no one in this house can have a non-tragic backstory. To make it worse, one particularly bad family member stuffed her in an acid-proof jar and threw her into a trash heap, where she stayed for a year until Izuku found her. Easily the worst backstory I've heard. Eri doesn't count because I haven't heard hers. Sanson is tied with Kei for being the most energetic in the house. Sanson hates being still, probably because of the whole jar thing, and will move around constantly, typically shapeshifting her body in all sorts of different ways. Sanson actually does want to be a hero, like me and Kiba, and trains herself every day. She's probably the most powerful person in the house right now. Any physical attacks just don't affect her at all, and she's made of acid, so anything she touches she can melt. Although Sanson is filled with a special chemical that makes her acid non-acidic most of the time, it also changes her color to blue. She can change her size at will and stretch herself too. And she can use her elasticity to power up her attacks to be even more powerful than Kiba. She's also strong in the water. She can move the water around with her body and shoot it out like a firehouse. And she can swim really well. She doesn't need to breathe, sleep, or eat, and she can't run out of stamina. She could almost definitely take on everyone in this house. Except Kei. Although she does have some weakness. If you can trap her in something small, sturdy and acid-proof, she won't be able to get out. And like I mentioned earlier, Kei definitely beats her. Sanson can know her entire body, so being even in the same room as Kei makes it impossible for her not to be turned to stone. And she also seems weak to cold. Seems like she can be frozen like water. Although we don't know how cold it has to be to freeze her. I don't know how she interacts with electricity though, not too dangerous. Izuku Midoriya. It's actually kind of funny how she came into the family. Her old family used to treat her poorly, so when she saw our loving family, she got jealous, broke into our house, and used her quirk to make us think she was always part of our family. Of course she got caught and Izuku accepted her anyway. She could have probably just asked and Izuku would have accepted her. Izuku has purple hair but otherwise is pretty normal. Izuku is very distrustful of people. Which makes sense. Her quirk lets her see and change people's memories. And she's looked through all of ours and her old parents' memories, and Aries, meaning she's seen a lot of bad people do very bad things. According to Izuku, her quirk is like looking through a movie. She can pause, rewind, fast forward, and watch it through like a movie. All she has to do to change it is remove it and replace it with something she imagines. She could change your entire life in only a few hours. Make you believe you're someone else. Something else even. Most of the kids here are powerful because of what they can do to you physically. But Izuku is different. I know why they're afraid of her. She could make heroes think of their villains. Turn normal people into monsters. Make people see horrors and think they went through them. The damage she could do in the wrong hands. The other kids don't really understand this. As far as they're concerned, she's the weakest of everyone. Even Izuku doesn't know how dangerous she is really. Only me and Dad know. Of course there are limits. If she creates a memory that makes no sense or contradicts itself or reality, then the person's memories will return to how they were before. Example. When she changed all our memories and added herself into everything, she forgot that the pictures would still show her not in those memories, so when we saw the pictures, our memories were restored. Note, the person may or may not keep the fake memories, depending on how much space their memory has. Another thing that affects her quirk is space. A person's memory has so much space, so she can only add so many fake memories without having to take out some real ones. According to Izuku, the amount of memory a person has depends on their age. Which makes sense. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku was the first kid to actually come from an O.P.C.C facility. Seems like her parents had at least a bit of dignity, and rather than throwing her out on the streets, they gave her to OPCCC. That's not saying she had a perfect life. The OPCCC is filled with uncaring idiots, so while she didn't starve or anything like that, she still received practically no affection and was basically stuck in one room her entire life. Still, she probably had it the easiest out of all of us, but that's not saying much. Shiruku loves making clothes. Specifically making them out of spider webs. Which may sound bad, but it's actually a lot better than normal fabric. More durable and, according to Kiba, very comfortable. She's replaced most of our clothes already, except for Sanson's. Because she doesn't wear any clothes. Shiruku's quirk is called Spider Queen. It's a mutation-type quirk that gives her the attributes of a spider. Her entire lower half is that of a spider, and she can shoot webs out of her butt. Apparently it's not a butt, but I don't know what it is, so I'm calling it a butt for now. She has 5 eyes and her skin is extremely pale. She has super strength, durability and speed that rivals, but is not equal to, Kiba at full power. Lastly, she also possesses the ability to climb on walls and control spiders. Shiruku is probably the third or second strongest in the house. Right now I have her tied with Kiba, and both of them are below Sanson. So the list of strongest to weakest is this. Number 1 Sanson. Number 2 Kiba/Shiruku. Number 3 Shiruku/Kiba. Number 4 K. Number 5 Yami/Eri. Number 6 Eri/Yami. Number 7 Me. Number 8 Kyoku. In a fight her quirk isn't too useful, but otherwise it's still really dangerous. Yami Midoriya. Yami was very different when we found him. Yami's parents both died in the forest, leaving Yami to have to survive by himself with only his quirk. His quirk allows him to absorb negative emotions from people and animals. He can turn these negative emotions into a black goop that he vomits out, and he can turn this black goop into nightmarish demon-like creatures. These creatures are primarily black and white, with skull masks and red glowing eyes. List of current creatures that Yami can create. With names picked out by Kiba and myself, with the help of Izuku. Ursa, a huge black bear with white bones coming out of it. Very strong and tough. Its claws are very sharp and dangerous, and its bite can split a person in two. Beowulf, large black wolf with white bones coming out of it. It's basically just like an Ursa but faster, and apparently easier to create according to Yami. Nevermore, a huge black bird. It can fly, of course, and also shoot out its feathers. Whomping willow, a big white tree with black apples growing from it. The apples have bone masks and sharp teeth that can tear through flesh. It can also whack people with its branches. List over. His entire body, including his hair, is white. The white parts of his eyes are black and his pupils are bright red. All of his teeth are also very pointy and sharp. Yami survived for years hunting animals and living in the wild. He'd never seen a positive emotion before. Oh yeah, he can see emotions. He met Dad. And because Dad is Dad, he kidnapped him. At first he was feral and angry like an animal, but after Kyoku filled his head with information, he became a lot more relaxed and lazy. Probably because he doesn't have to worry about starving to death. I mean, I know I relaxed when I didn't have to worry about food anymore. Fu Midoriya. Not much to say really. Parents abandoned me after my quirk came in. Was found by Kiba and then Izuku. Standard tragic backstory. Also, this is the official ranking of tragic backstories. Number 1 Eri, it's so bad we can't even know about it. Number 2 Sanson. Number 3 K. Hashtag 4/5/6 is a tie between me/Kiba and Yami. Number 7 Kyoku. Number 8 Dad, yes I'm including him this time. Number 9 Shiruku. Anyway, back to me I guess. My quirk allows me to regenerate from anything, basically making me unkillable. So long as I've eaten enough meat. I have to eat meat so my quirk can convert them into meat parts so I can regenerate. According to Izuku, I have to eat 5 times my body weight in order to be full. If I'm running low on meat, then I basically turn into a zombie and go looking for any meat I can find. And I mean, any meat. It doesn't help that my body parts will start to rot and fall off after about a month. Also, my quirks don't let me feel anything physically. Meaning I don't feel pain, but I also can't feel when people touch me or warmth or cold or anything. I also can't taste anything either. It also makes it hard for me to feel things emotionally. I still can, but it's hard. It makes being by myself very unpleasant. I also have very limited super strength and speed. Izuku explained that apparently the reason for this is that people's bodies normally limit how much strength and speed they use, so they don't hurt themselves. However, in times of panic these limits can be broken, causing great damage to the person's body but giving them more power. My body can regenerate, so it sees no use in having those limits. I'm about as strong as an average adult right now, but Izuku says I could get a lot stronger when I'm older. I hope so. I want to be a hero when I grow up. Kiba wants to be one and I'd like to be alongside her, and it just sounds exciting too. Also, Dad loves heroes. I'm sure he'd be proud of me if I became one. I should get back to training. Chapter 22, Triple Threat. Izuku knew that some kids might be more problematic than others. He was ready to have to adjust to a problematic child. But 3? At once? Izuku sighed. Okay, I can do this. The faster those kids get out of there the better. Let's go over everything again. Thankfully, after Izuku awoke from his sleep, if you call being knocked out for 3 hours sleep, he found that the O.P.C.C, their new name, DLC division of overpowered children, had sent him files on all 3 children. The first one was an 8-year-old girl named Fukunoko. Unsurprisingly from her name, her father was an abusive jerk who sported extremely outdated views. After years of abuse, Izuku didn't know what kind. The paper just said physical and mental abuse. The mother contacted DOC and Child Services and the father was arrested and eventually was killed in prison. The mother gave up any and all rights to the girl and thus she's been in one of DOC's facilities for a while. Her quirk was called fear gas. Her skin can emit a gas that when inhaled, causes the victim to hallucinate their worst fears. It also messes with certain parts of the brain, shutting off certain parts that control logic, causing even the most rational and collected people to go crazy with fear. Unfortunately, she has a habit of accidentally unleashing this gas whenever she's overly stressed or afraid. Fortunately, DLC actually did something useful with their money and developed a cure for this, which Izuku will be getting several shipments of. Okay, so I'm definitely going to need to hire a therapist at some point soon. Izuku sighed. I'll also need to give her room a special ventilation system that can suck out the gas. And the door will need to be airtight so no gas can get out. I'll also need gas masks to be hung up around the house in case of an emergency. The next child was Otoko. A 7-year-old boy who had been with them since birth, like Shiruku. His quirk caused anyone who was feeling a noticeable amount of fear while touching him to combust into flames. Wait a minute. Izuku stopped reading it for a moment. They brought the kid that sets people on fire when they're afraid, with the girl that causes people to feel immense fear. Why? New name, same old incompetence it seemed. And knowing them they wouldn't be likely to change anything, so it was no use trying to reschedule things. Getting back to the document. The boy also had physical mutations that made him look very frightening. Fortunately, DLC had developed a special containment cloak that will both hide his appearance and keep anyone from touching him directly. Except for the face area, which is still exposed due to any attempt at covering it being met with breathing issues. Okay, so I'm going to need a lot of backups from that cloak. Maybe I can convince him to carry around a small fire extinguisher just in case. Izuku thought. The last child was a 40-foot monster, because of course he was. Where am I even supposed to put a 40-foot child? Izuku wondered. I guess I'll have to make someplace that houses him specifically. Getting all that set up is gonna be a pain. I might need to call more construction companies than just the Urarakas. Continuing with the file, the child's name was Kai and he was about 7. He apparently resembled a hydra but with only 3 heads. Despite having 3 heads he tended to only talk out of one. And if a 40-foot, and still getting bigger, 3-headed child wasn't enough, his blood was poisonous. While the poison, in small amounts, wasn't that dangerous, his large size ensured that if you got the poison on you, it wasn't gonna be in small amounts. Okay, so aside from having to build an entirely different building for him, I'm going to have the antidote for the poison in the med bay, and I'm most likely going to have to make his room out of extremely sturdy material. Izuku thought. I really do feel bad for him. It's gonna be hard for him to interact with everyone else at that size. Although I imagine Kiba would love to play with someone that big, actually I'll need to see how careful he is before I let him play with Kiba. Knowing that girl, she would definitely hurt herself. I wish there were more details, but this is probably the best I'll get. Izuku sighed. He took a deep breath and clenched his fist with determination. All right, Izuku said out loud. Let's do this, for the kids. 3 days later. Izuku and some of the kids stood outside, waiting for the new arrivals. Izuku had already told them all about their quirks and, most of them were excited. Especially Kiba, Sanson, and Kei. When are they gonna get here? Kei was so excited she was jumping. I can't wait to see the Hydra. Kiba added. Sanson just bounced up and down excitedly. The others had decided to stay inside. They would introduce themselves at a later time. At first, Izuku wanted everyone to come out and introduce themselves, however after a bit of thinking he realized that idea may be a poor one. They'd be getting children fairly often, so it'd be repetitive and exhausting to keep gathering all the kids at the door to meet new children, and it might overwhelm the new additions as well. And so he let some of the kids stay inside and continue their days. The first 2 should be brought in cars. But how are they going to bring Kai? Izuku wondered. Izuku's question was answered by a large shadow moving over them. The 4 of them looked up and saw something huge in the air, flying above them. And Izuku had a feeling he knew what it was. Thump! The huge creature landed just in front of the gates, and Izuku could see that it was the same monster that the paper described the child known as Kai. Large green scales with 3 serpent-like heads and 2 legs. However, what was not described was the scaly wings on his back. I wish I had known about him being able to fly. Izuku cursed the paper's lack of information. Thank goodness his room isn't done yet. I may still have the opportunity to make some changes. The gate opened and in walked Kai, carrying DOZ agents and presumably the other children on his back. Once the boy saw Izuku he excitedly walked forward to him, carefully avoiding destroying or trampling anything on his way. Excuse me? Are you going to be my new father? The surprisingly polite Hydra-like boy asked with a booming voice that was too high-pitched to fit his body. If that's what you want. Izuku looked at the child who was looming over him with 3 heads. Yes, I would very much like that, please. Kai rapidly nodded. Kai! Let us down! Shouted a DOC agent. Oh! Sorry. Kai apologized, before lowering his heads. The DOC agents got off, along with a cloaked figure Izuku assumed to be Otoko judging by his size and the cloak. He was rather large for his age, standing at a little under 5 feet. Getting a lot at his face, he was in fact rather strange looking. He had 3 dangly vine-like things hanging down his face, and he was a shade of mossy green with big black eyes. The last DOC agent that came off was holding who Izuku assumed to be Fukunoko. She was a short girl with purple hair. She was also unconscious and the DOC agent was wearing a gas mask, so Izuku had a creeping feeling that there was an incident. The masked agent said to Izuku, "The girl is rather skittish." She panicked when she saw the boy and released her quirk before passing out due to fear. "I'm sorry." Kai lowered his head in shame. "It's not your fault. You can't help how people react to you." Izuku immediately comforted the large boy. She woke up and had another incident, released her quirk, and passed out. Unfortunately, one of ours was caught in the gas. The agent continued, handing the girl to Izuku. "You gave them the antidote, right?" Izuku asked. "Oh God, no. I'm sorry, Moem." Please. Put the butter away. Cried an agent that fell off of Kai's back. Unfortunately, we may have forgotten to pack any. The agent said as the other agents worked to subdue the hallucinating one. Now if you'd excuse me, we need to subdue him again and get back to HQ. If you came on Kai, how are you getting back exactly? Izuku asked. All the agents froze, as they realized they had made a fatal error. After a few moments of awkward silence, the masked agent said, Can we stay in your front yard while we wait for transportation? After getting over his shock at their lack of any thought in general, Izuku nodded. The agent pulled out his phone, however after looking at it for a moment he just put it back in his pocket and turned to the other agents. Does anyone have a phone that's charged? If Izuku wasn't as nice of a person, he would have facepalmed. Meanwhile, the kids, with the exception of Fukunoko, were getting acquainted. My, what a terrifying appearance. Truly you are a magnificent beast. Kiba praised. Oh, thanks, Kai said. You are very pretty. Of course I am. It's simply natural. Kiba boasted. I could be half dead and still look amazing. Don't test that. Izuku shouted. Can I climb you? Kei asked her new kaiju brother. Okay. Kai agreed. Just try not to pull out my scales, please. It's very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Sanson and Otoko were staring at each other. Sanson got closer to the green boy, but Otoko backed away before she could touch him. Otoko shook his head, trying to tell her he didn't want to be touched. Sanson remembered what his quirk was. Anyone who felt fear and touched Otoko would burst into flames. However, Sanson was made of liquid, and completely inflammable, as far as she knew, plus she wasn't afraid. She would be fine. She knew how it felt to be scared to touch people, and how much she wanted to. Sanson decided to ignore his protest and swiftly moved over to him, and wrapped around his neck. The boy freaked out for a moment, trying to shake Sanson off his neck to no success. But Sanson formed her head in front of his face and said, Come. Water can't be on fire. Otoko stopped for a moment and considered what she had just said. Normally he didn't allow anyone to touch him. His quirk could set someone on fire at any time, even someone who didn't seem afraid, or wasn't afraid at first could suddenly become afraid and burst into flames. But this girl was made of water, or something like water. She couldn't catch fire, right? And even if she could just put it out. Right? Hesitantly, Otoko touched the slime girl, realizing how nice her watery body felt like on his mossy skin. After letting the DOC agents use his phone to call their HQ and telling them to wait outside, Izuku turned to address the children. Okay everyone, you can go inside now. Sanson, Kiba, could you please help carry their bags to their rooms? Izuku asked his children, before turning to the enormous kaiju. Kai, your room won't be ready for the next couple days. Sorry. It's okay. I had to sleep outside back with DOC anyway. Kai gave a slightly terrifying smile with all three heads. But thank you for making me a room to stay in, Father. I appreciate the great lengths you've gone through and I apologize for the trouble you must have experienced. Wow, he is really polite. Izuku realized. He looked down at the still unconscious girl in his arm. She seemed shy, which makes sense considering her background. Otoko seems pretty calm too. Maybe everything will go fine? Izuku prayed and hoped that would be the case. Later that day, Fukunoko woke up in an unknown place in an unknown, but comfy bed. And was immediately terrified. Ha! Where am I? Was I kidnapped? The poor girl trembled in fear. She looked around, and while the room itself was new to her, it held many familiar items. Her teddy bear was propped up on a chair, all her clothes were hung up in a new wardrobe. Her precious Venus flytrap PD was on a nearby table, and her books and toys were put away neatly as well. Oh right. I was being transferred to a new family. Stupid Fuku. Fukunoko berated herself. But who'd want to take Fuku? I'm dangerous. Stupid. Unmarriable. Oh no. Maybe that man somehow took me back. What if he changed his name and look and adopted me so he could get revenge on me? Before she could continue theorizing and freaking herself out, there was a knock on her door, which was made of pure metal. Clang clang clang. Ah! I'm sorry. Fukunoko screamed. I didn't mean to use my quirk. I'm sorry. Fukunoko? Called out Izuku's voice. Are you okay? Fukunoko froze. Wait. That's not his voice? Who is that? Does he work with the men in suits? Is he here to scold me for using my quirk when I saw that monster? Please. I didn't mean to use my quirk. I was just scared. I won't do it again. I promise. Fukunoko begged, trying to both keep herself from crying and keep herself from accidentally using her quirk again. There was a small pause, until Izuku eventually said, I'm coming in. The metal door slid up, opening and allowing him inside, before closing behind him. Fukunoko was surprised by how young he was. He doesn't look like all the other people in suits. He's short. Against her better nature, Fukunoko found her lowering her guard just a little bit, after witnessing Izuku's completely non-threatening appearance. Hi. Izuku introduced himself. He didn't get too close to her, keeping just enough distance between them to keep her from getting any more uncomfortable than she already was. Hi. Fukunoko responded. You Where am I? Who are you? Well, my name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku introduced himself. And I'm your new guardian. Guardian? Fukunoko asked with no small amount of disbelief. You mean why you adopted me? That's right. Izuku nodded, giving her the kindest smile he could. WWY. Fukunoko moved backward until her back hit the wall. Why would you want Fuko? I am cursed. My quirk is bad. It hurts people. No one wants Fuko. Izuku's smile faltered. She reminds me of Eri. In the worst kind of way. Shaking off the feeling of wanting to punch someone, mainly this girl's father, Izuku spoke up. That's not true. I'm sure there are plenty of good things about you. There really isn't. Fuku shook her head rapidly. My quirk isn't a problem. Izuku cut her off, shocking her and causing her to emit an EAP. Sorry. Izuku apologized for startling her. But I never explained what this place was, did I? My job is to take care of any kids acquired by DOC. This is a house to take care of children with quirks like yours. A house full of dangerous quirks? Fuku was now getting scared for a very different reason. Alright. But it's all made as safe as possible. Izuku tried to reassure her. All the kids are provided with things and the house is filled with things to increase the safety of everything. What kind of things? Fuku asked. Well, for example, this is made so that if you have an accident and your quirk acts up, then nothing bad will happen. The door is airtight so no gas can get out, and if that sensor detects any fear gas then the door will automatically lock and the vents will suck out all of the gas in seconds. Izuku explained. What if someone is in here? Fuku asked. Then they can put on one of those gas masks. Izuku pointed to some gas masks, hung up on a rack near the door. Sorry if you don't want them in here, but we have to have them for safety reasons. But what if they don't put it on fast enough? Fuku asked, still getting increasingly fearful and paranoid. Then we rush them to the med bay and give them the antidote. I located your room closest to med bay, so it should only take a minute to do that. Izuku told her. But they'll still be affected. And they'll still hate me because my quirk is scary. Fuku cried. Okay, it looks like she's extremely paranoid. And has all the self-esteem issues Eri had. Izuku thought. He recalled his own personal experiences with paranoia. This was obviously much worse. Logic wouldn't work in this kind of situation. The only thing he could do was try and make her feel safe and give her time. Okay, clearly you don't feel comfortable here yet, Izuku told her as calmly as possible. You're in a new place, with new people, and you're scared. It's okay, I understand. He got up and took out a map from his pocket and put it down on the nearby table. This is a map of the house so you don't get lost. If you need anything then just come to me. Izuku went to the door and opened it. Try and make yourself comfortable here. No one is going to hurt you. And with that Izuku left Fuku to her extremely paranoid thoughts. A place full of dangerous people, who all probably hate me. Fuku had no reason to think that her intense paranoia caused her to think this. After spending who knows how long panicking, she managed to calm herself down, if only just enough to keep herself from fainting again. Calm down Fuku, calm down. You said the same thing about the other place and you're still alive. She told herself. Maybe I'm just being stupid. Stupid Fuku. Before she could continue trying, mostly unsuccessfully, to calm herself, suddenly Kai's giant head appeared in the window. Hello, new sister. I have come to apologize for scaring you before. Kai bellowed. Fuku stared at the giant for about 5 seconds, before gas exploded out of her body and she fainted once again. Chapter 23, Friendly Faces. Too shy. Too sweet. Fuku was trembling as she stood in front of her door. Come on Fuku. If you don't ask Izuku for food then you'll starve. Fuku tried to gather up all her courage as her hand hovered over the button to open the door. You can do it Fuku. Be brave. For food. She held her breath and pressed the button, causing the door to slide open. And reveal Eri on the other side. Aha! Fuku immediately jumped backwards into her bed and screamed. Eri let out a much quieter surprised scream and jumped back a more reasonable distance. Fuku covered herself in her blankets in a poor attempt to hide herself. Please don't kill me. Kill you? Eri stuttered. I don't want to kill you. I promise. So you want to torture me? Fuku accused. Beat me until my skin turns black and blue. Break my bones. And turn me into a bloody pulp. What? No. Tears started forming in Eri's eyes. I just wanted to give you a candy apple. Ha? Fuku peeked her head out of the covers. In front of her was Eri, close to crying and with 2 candy apples in her hand. Eri sniffed as she tried to hold in the tears. I am sorry. Immediately guilt stabbed Fuku right in the heart and she started to panic. Oh God, I'm sorry. Fuku apologized. Please don't cry. After a couple minutes, the two of them managed to calm themselves down to not a reasonable level, but to the point where they could talk without crying. I wanted to give you this. Eri held out the candy apple to Fuku. An apple? Fuku took the treat. Why does it look weird? Is it poison? No. Eri shook her head. It's a candy apple. They look different from normal apples. They're sweet. Candy? I've never had candy before. Fuku admitted. Did that man never let me have any? He said it'd make me get fat and unhealthy. Izuku says that only happens if you eat too many, Eri said. He said it's okay to have some, but not too much. Fuku looked at the apple, and then at Eri. She said it's not poison. But what if she's lying? But she might get upset if I don't eat it. Oh God, she might stab me with that horn. Concerned with offending the girl, Fuku took a hesitant bite. And that's when her entire world changed. Fuku's eyes widened and her pupils dilated as the sweetness made its way to her tongue and made her brain go crazy. And in that moment, only one thought dominated her mind. Only one word. More. She immediately took a much bigger bite of the apple, stuffing her face and getting some on her cheeks. Is good. Fuku said with her mouth full. Why yeah. Eri gave a very slight smile, relieved that the other girl was enjoying the treat. Eri didn't even have time to start eating her apple before Fuku finished hers. Aha! Aha! Fuku finished swallowing the candy. That was the best thing I've ever eaten. Eri nodded. It's my favorite. I thought you might like it. I did. Thank you. Fuku said, her eyes shining. Thank you. Sorry I never asked your name. You gave me candy and I never even asked you your name, I'm so sorry. It's okay. My name's Eri. Eri introduced herself. Thank you, Eri, Fuku told her. For a while, the two of them just stood, or sat in Fuku's case, in silence. However, Eri noticed that Fuku wasn't really looking at her, but rather at her candy apple. Eri brought the apple towards Fuku, offering it to her. F for me? Fuku asked, shocked by her generosity. Eri nodded, bringing the apple closer to her. But I can't. Fuku shook her hands in front of her to deny her offer. I already had one and I didn't. I can't take your apple from you. It's okay, Eri reassured her. I've had a lot ever since I met Izuku. But that was your first. I think it's more fair if I give you two. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Fuku was still unsure. But are you sure? Didn't you say that it was your favorite? Eri nodded. I love it, but I want you to smile more. Fuku felt something. Something deep inside her. She felt touched. And no one's ever said that to me before, Fuku whispered. She looked down at the apple, and, very slowly, she took it from Eri's hand. Fuku took a single, small bite of the apple. And chewed it. After she swallowed it, she just sat there looking at it for a couple minutes. Making Eri concerned. However, eventually Fuku broke the silence. Why did you bring this to me? She asked Eri, looking away from the girl with shame in their eyes. Why are you being so nice to me? Fuku doesn't deserve it. I'm stupid and ugly and my quirk it's terrible. It's more like a curse than a quirk. In that moment, Eri got a very bad flashback to when she first met Izuku. Back when she was just like Fuku. Eri climbed onto the bed, startling Fuku. What are you? Before Fuku could finish her sentence, she was suddenly wrapped in a hug from Eri. Ha! Don't ever say that, Eri whispered, holding Fuku tightly. You're not a monster. And your quirk is not cursed. But Fuku wasn't used to hugs. Wasn't used to the warmth that came from hugging. Wasn't used to the strange fluffy feeling that came from being given affection. So she started crying. And then Eri started crying. Did someone hurt you? Eri asked her. Hurt me? Fuku sniffled. Did your parents hate you too? Eri asked her. You were trapped in a place where everyone hated you? And a bad man hurt you over and over. Did he call you bad things too? Did he call your quirk a curse too? Fuku struggled out of Eri's grasp and looked at her fearfully. How did you know? Because Izuku said that you're like me, Eri said. Like you? Fuku said with a small amount of disbelief. Eri nodded. Before I met Izuku, I was in a bad place. A bad man kept me there and hurt me a lot. He called me mean things and said my quirk was a curse. That I was a cursed child who could only hurt people. That happened to me too. Fuku's eagerness lasted only a few seconds before she got gloomy from remembering her past. Why you can talk about it? Eri urged her. I heard about you from Izuku, and everyone said you were too scared to leave your room. I wanted to tell you that it was safe here. So if you want to talk you can. No one's going to get mad. I promise. Pinky promise? Fuku held out her pinky. Eri didn't know but she just went along with it, wrapping her pinky around Fuku's pinky. Pinky promise. There was a small pause before Fuku started to talk. Father wanted me to be a boy before I was born. But when I was born a girl he was angry. He named me, Child of Misfortune. Fuku explained. He said that he wanted me to be the perfect bride so that he could marry me to a rich family. He forced me to learn a lot of things like cooking and cleaning and sewing. And every time I failed he would hit me and call me a failure. He'd tie me to a chair and challenge me to keep still. And when my quirk came everything got worse. He said that I was unmarriable. A complete failure. After that, he locked me in my room so I didn't hurt anyone with my quirk. Until the men in suits took us away. Fuku has started crying at some point during her explanation. Eri didn't really understand all the complicated parts like why her father wanted a boy, or why she had to be a bride and marry a rich family. But she did understand that someone had hurt Fuku, and that's all she really needed to understand right now. He was a bad man, Eri said. Like Overhaul. People like them lie and hurt people because they're selfish. Why you shouldn't listen to them. Eri was doing her best. Telling her everything that Izuku told her. She just wanted to be there for her. Why you really think Fuku isn't bad? Fuku sniffled. Eri nodded. If you're bad, then that means I'm bad. And Izuku says I'm not bad, so you're not bad either. It was simple, childish logic. But they were simply children. So it did succeed in making Fuku feel better. Why you're a good person, Eri. Fuku wasn't sure she was ready to fully trust Eri, but she did trust her more than anyone else right now. There are a lot of good people here, Eri said. They're different from us. Some are loud. Some are weird. Some are scary. But they're really nice. Why you should meet them, if you want. Fuku paused. I don't think I'm ready for that. Fuku's too much of a coward, but maybe one day I can go and meet them. I don't think I can do it alone though. I'll help. Eri immediately volunteered. And she would. She'd be there for her. Just like Izuku and the others would be there for her. Knock knock. Fuku was currently doing her new favorite activity. Enjoying some sweats and tea in the comfort of her room while watching some romance anime. No. Confess. If you don't, she's gonna leave for America. Fuku shouted at the TV screen. Knock knock. EAP. Fuku jumped in her seat, before scrambling for the remote and turning off the TV. Fukanoko? Kei called from the other side of the door. Can I come in? Ah. Who are you? How do you know my name? Fuku panicked. My name's Kei. I'm one of the other kids here. I asked Dad for your name. Kei explained. Oh. Fuku breathed a sigh of relief. It didn't seem like the girl was an assassin out to kill her, but then again, she didn't know that for sure. Can I come in? Kei asked. I want to snake your hand. Ha? Fuku got confused for a moment. Do you mean shake? Or, don't tell me. You're gonna have a snake bite my hand. 1-0. Kei immediately denied. I have snakes for hair, so I was making a snake pun. You have snakes for hair? Fuku asked. Surprisingly, this didn't freak her out further. Yeah. They are really nice. Want to pet them? Kei asked. Fuku could hear Kei's snakes hiss. Fuku thought about it for a second before realizing she would have to let Kei in to do that and shaking her head. And no. Please, go. Ha! But I want to meet you. Kay whined. I came here so we could have fun. I'm having fun. Lots of fun. Inside my room. Fuku said. But aren't you lonely in there by yourself? Kay asked her with a somewhat sad tone. There was a small pause before Fuku responded. And no? I don't believe you, Kay said. Come on. Please. We can do whatever you want. Whatever I want? Fuku asked. Whatever you want. Kay repeated. There was another pause until Fuku responded with, see, can we do something with the door still closed? It sounded ridiculous. To anyone who wasn't there, they might have thought it was just a rude, sarcastic way of telling the snake girl to leave. But her hopeful, yet somewhat desperate tone said otherwise. There was yet another long, awkward pause as Fuku got more and more nervous. I am sorry. It was a stupid question. Fuku broke down and apologized. There's no way you could do something with this door between dash. Knock knock. Knock knock, Kay said after knocking on the door. Ha? Fuku stopped her crying and apologizing. Knock knock, Kay repeated. Fuku paused for a moment out of confusion, before realizing what this was. It was a knock-knock joke. Out of curiosity, Fuku responded. Who's there? Nobel, Kay responded. Nobel who? Fuku asked. Nobel, that's why I knocked. Kay giggled. Fuku thought about it for a while, not really getting the joke at first. Nobel. Oh. She finally got it. That's funny. She didn't laugh. Or smile. But she was amused. No laugh. Darn. Kay said. Your turn. What? Fuku asked. You wanted to do something with the door between us. So let's play a game. Kay explained. We'll tell knock-knock jokes until one of us laughs. The first one to laugh wins, but you have to laugh at the other person's joke. My laugh earlier didn't count. But I'm terrible at jokes. Fuku objected. Everyone says I'm pretty bad at it too. So we're even. Kay explained. Fuku's mouth opened and closed as she tried to figure out what to say. She can't do anything to me from behind the door, right? Wait. Everyone here has dangerous quirks. What if she's just trying to make me feel safe before breaking down my door and killing me? Fuku thought. But why wouldn't she just do that from the beginning? Does she want to make me feel safe so my death hurts emotionally too? Fuku's paranoid thoughts continued to dominate her mind for the next several seconds. However, despite everything in her mind telling her not to do this, her trembling little hand reached for the door. Knock knock. Kay knock knock, Fuku whispered. Kay smiled on the other side of the door. Who's there? Fuku blushed with embarrassment. She forgot to actually think of a joke first. See cows go? Cows go who? Kay asked. No. Cows go moo. Fuku responded. Fuku gave an awkward, forced laugh. Oh my god, that was so bad, she's going to hate me now. There was yet another pause before Fuku eventually heard Kay snort. And then giggle. And then laugh. Kay started just laughing out loud. Ha 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 ha. Darn it. That was so good. What? Fuku was confused. Did I just win? Yup, Kay said, still giggling at the pun. Want to play again? Fuku still hasn't gotten over the fact that she actually won something. I won? But I can't win. Fuku's no good. Fuku's the worst at everything. That's not true. Kay objected. You're the best at being you. The best at being Fuku? Fuku questioned. But that doesn't mean anything. Fuku's the worst at everything, so being the best at being Fuku means being the worst at everything. But you can't be the worst at everything if you are the best at being yourself. Kei argued. That, huh? You could almost see the steam coming out of Fuku's head as her brain tried to figure out and counter Kei's logic, or lack thereof. After a few moments of speechlessness, Kei repeated her question. You want to play again? Dazed from her overthinking, Fuku just said. Sure? Okay. Knock knock. Kei knocked on the door. Who's there? Fuku asked. Annie. Kei said. Annie who? Fuku asked. Anything I can do you can do too. Kei snickered. Huh? Oh, I get it. Fuku got the joke much quicker this time. That's not true. But it was funny. I guess. Your turn. Kei told her. Oh, okay. Fuku knocked on the door. Knock knock. Who's there? Kei asked. To, Fuku said quickly, coming up with something. To who? Kei asked. Actually, it's to whom? Fuku smiled nervously. There was a small pause before Kei said. I don't get it. Oh, When you say to who, grammatically the correct way to say it is to whom. Fuku explained. It was a bad grammar joke. Sorry. Oh. I didn't know that. You're smart, Fukanoko. Kei praised. Stop praising me so much. Fuku's face was beet red. But you are. Kei insisted. Stop. It's your turn, just go. Fuku told her. Okay, knock knock. Kei knocked on the door. Who's there? Fuku asked. Kei said. Who? Fuku asked. Bless you. Kei giggled. Once again, it took Fuku a second for her to get it. But when she did, she actually smiled a little, and giggled, very slightly. Ah! You laughed. Kei pointed out. Huh? I did. Fuku just realized what happened and her eyes went wide. Oh, I did. Stupid Fuku. I didn't even try to hold it in. Hey, don't be sad. You won the first game, so we're tied. Kei said. Besides, Dad says that losing isn't a bad thing, as long as you have fun. Fuku thought about the question. She laughed. She can't remember the last time someone made her laugh. She liked laughing. It made her feel good. In a way hard for her to describe. I guess, Fuku admitted. Do you want to play again? Okay. Kei knocked on the door. Knock knock. Who's there? Fuku asked. Olive. Kei was already giggling. Olive who? Fuku asked. Olive you. Kei burst out laughing with the biggest smile on her face. Olive you? Olive. Oh, live? Oh, live? I live? I love? I love you. Fuku's face erupted in a bright red blush. And she got so flustered that she accidentally activated her quirk and gas filled the room. Chapter 24, Short 7. Spar. Rag, hi. Kai roars as one of his heads rushes towards Kiba. Kiba dodged the attack, jumping onto the side of a nearby small mountain, causing Kai's head to get stuck in the dirt. Luckily, he had two more. One of the heads picked up a tree and threw it at Kiba, who in response picked up a rock and threw it at the tree at full strength. The force of the rock was so great it split through the three like a bullet, cutting it in half and keeping it from harming her. The rock hit Kai, smashing against his scaly skin. Ow! That stings. Kai shook off the sting and finally pulled out his middle head from the ground. Clever move, dear sister. But allow me to retaliate. Meanwhile, on the side, Fu was filming the entire thing and keeping watch of chat. Holy crap, this amazing. Isn't this dangerous? Is this even legal? To explain. Kiba had found out that Kai also wanted to be a hero. There weren't exactly many jobs one could have for an enormous person who couldn't shrink. And he was willing to spar with her. And so after asking permission for Izuku to go into the forest to spar, Izuku said yes on the condition that Fu accompanies them and that Kiba streamed the whole thing. Conditions. Kiba was more than happy to oblige. Dad owns all the land around here, so we can use our quirks as much as we want, Fu explained. While he was explaining this, Kiba uppercut one of Kai's heads. However, this left her in the air, completely defenseless. Fortunately for her, the pain from the uppercut caused Kai to stumble back. And by the time he recovered, he missed his chance to attack back. Kiba landed on the ground and decided to keep on the offensive. She ran toward Kai and did a jump kick, hitting him right in the belly. However, the distance she ran was too short, meaning she didn't build up enough momentum to do sufficient damage to Kai. Meaning she just bounced off. Kai stomped the ground, causing it to shake. Oof! Kiba lost her footing and fell to the ground. Kai saw this opportunity and raised its foot, before bringing it down on Kiba. Not too hard, just in case she couldn't handle it. Kiba could in fact handle it, however, and she used all four limbs to push against Kai's foot. Kai increased the power of his stomp, but Kiba was at full strength and was able to handle it. The ground below her could not, however. And Kiba was forced underground, unable to repel Kai's foot due to his strength and size. Is the great Kiba done for? Impossible. Kiba is supreme. My dude, she's fighting a Hydra. I'm impressed she lasted this long. Rise, Kiba. Rise. I don't think rising is the key here, Fu said. Are you ready to give up, dear sister? It looks as if you've been bested, Kai said. Suddenly, Kai sunk deeper into the ground. And he felt Kiba's resistance against his foot vanish. Ha! Sister! Kai panicked, thinking he may have crushed her, and he raised his foot and lowered his head towards the hole to check on her. He couldn't see anything in the dark hole, so he brought his head closer, putting one of them in the hole. And found that Kiba was simply not there. Suddenly, Kiba burst out from the ground behind Kai. Surprise! Kiba jumped onto Kai's back and started climbing his back and punching him. There she is. Kiba used dig. Ah! Clever trick, ga! Sister! Kai praised. And right where my heads can't reach. However, Kai fell on his back, squishing Kiba between his back and the ground. Ah! Kiba cried in pain, before quickly gritting her teeth and getting her head back into the fight. She let go of Kai and dug into the ground, digging through it quickly with her massive strength. Kai got up after realizing this and moved its three heads around it, giving it almost 360 vision. Kiba popped out of the ground, but this time Kai was ready and grabbed her in his mouth. Kiba used her strength and kept his jaw open, while also punching the roof of his mouth. Ow! 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 Kai cried out with his other heads. He thought quickly and took into the sky. After getting a few miles into the air, Kai stopped. Sister, do you think you can take a fall from this height? Can I? Ha! Kiba scoffed. With ease, brother. Very well. Kai raised the head Kiba was in, before flinging it down and spitting out Kiba. Ah! Kiba underestimated how terrifying it would be to fall from so high up. Palm! Kiba hit the ground hard, making a big cloud of dirt. Oh, crap. Kiba? That looked bad. Fu. That's enough. Fu looked at the username of that last person. All Might Fan 2033. AKA, Izuku. Kai landed and Fu blew a whistle he brought along. That's enough. Dad's calling it off. Fu announced. Kai nodded. Yes, brother. And no. Kiba cried from within the dust cloud. The dust started to clear, and Kiba was trying to stand up in a small crater. Scratches and bruises covered her body, her dress was messy and torn, albeit not as much as you'd think it'd be thanks to the spider silk. She was trying to stand up, but it was clear that impact had hurt. A lot. She could, after a few seconds of recovery, still fight. But Izuku, who had been watching Kiba's stream, still decided enough was enough. Kiba. Know your limits. Wait, is that her dad? I think it is. Dad still says to call off the fight, Fu told her. TCH. Kiba grimaced. Fine. You did very well, sister. I've never been injured like this before. Kai praised her. Well, next time prepare for a beating that trumps this one thoroughly, Kiba swore. Kiba is such a sore loser. She's an adorable loser. Kiba did not lose. She simply failed to win. Fu actually cracked up a little bit on that last one. Yeah, I'm sure that'd make her feel better. Kai picked up Kiba and Fu with his heads, and pulled them onto his back, before flying back to the house. New room. Kai stood in his enormous room with wonder in his eyes. The room was right next to the backyard and was nearly as big as the main house itself. With the ceiling being a comfortable distance from Kai's head. The floor was soft. Comfortable enough to sleep on, yet still firm. There was a TV screen that was roughly the size of one of the regular rooms, and next to it was a control panel that acted as the remote. Sorry, I couldn't get you a bed, Izuku told him as he introduced Kai to his new room. And sorry if the TV might be a bit small. No, it's great, father. This room is far greater than the one at the facility. Kai said in awe. And the TV is much bigger. Oh, well, I'm glad you like it. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. The button next to the TV controls it. It's like a big controller. Oh. Kai turned on the TV using one of his heads, before turning it off again. There is a blanket in the corner so you can just put it over yourself when you go to sleep, Izuku explained. I, also installed that button over there. Actually, you should just press it. Kai pressed the button, and suddenly the roof started to shift and move, and in a few seconds it had completely opened up. The kaiju boy gasped. Izuku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I thought you might want to fly out of here instead of walking. Kai jumped up in excitement, but luckily the soft floor was made to distribute the weight. The force still knocked Izuku off his feet though. Thank you so much, father. This room is truly more than I could have ever asked for. Your kindness knows no bounds. Kai praised. Izuku blushed. I'm glad you like it. Son. Kai seemed extremely happy, and after getting over his embarrassment, Izuku smiled along with him. Glad I got all those construction companies together. Even if the paperwork was nightmarish. Izuku would gladly go through all that trouble again. His kids deserved it. New faces. Otoko liked this place. The greenhouse to be specific. Back at his time with Diyoshi, he was forced to spend all his time in his room. No sun, no wind, no outside. Here in the greenhouse, the sun shined down nicely upon his mossy skin, and the wind from the window brushed comfortably against his face. Also, the company. Now there were, of course, his plants. Right now he was trying to grow a sakura tree. It was still just a small sapling at the moment, but he hoped it would grow to be much bigger and much prettier. But then of course there was his more human company. The three girls were Kyoku, Eri, and Kei if he recalled correctly, and they were strange to him. Eri seemed the most normal. She feared him, and she kept her distance. He was used to that. His form was frightening, he understood that. It saddened him, but he understood. At the very least, she didn't seem too fearful of him. Nor did she seem disgusted by his very presence. So that was a plus. Kyoko did not seem to mind him at all. Not like she was ignoring him, more like him being there didn't bother her. Which was normal to most people, but to Otoko it was a welcome surprise. And Kei was the strangest. "What's this?" Kei said, inspecting his tree, getting close to Otoko, not too close, but closer than anyone normally got. Kei was completely and totally unafraid of his appearance. Which, to be fair, shouldn't have surprised Otoko much given her own appearance. After realizing he didn't like to be touched, Kei didn't attempt to touch him directly, but her eagerness and willingness to be so close to him was something he wasn't used to. Otoko looked at Kei, he didn't bother signing. Unfortunately, Izuku was the only one who knew sign language, meaning that no one else in this house would understand him. "Oh, right, you can't talk," Kei said. "Sorry." They were all they consider it for what it's worth. Much better than with DOC. Warm sun, cool winds, nice people. Who could ask for more? Swimming lessons. Otoko stood at the edge of the pool, looking at it hesitantly. Sanson had been encouraging him to go swimming with her, and after talking to Izuku and making sure no one else would be coming here for a while, Otoko agreed. He felt exposed without his cloak. He'd had it on most of the time, only taking it off during showers. Now he only had on some swim trunks and a floa tie. Speaking of showers, those were really his only experiences with water besides drinking it. He'd never been to a pool before because Diozi never really let him out of his room before, let alone let him go to a pool. He liked them. The feeling of water against his mossy skin felt nice. So by that logic, this should also feel nice. Of course, there was still the issue of him not being able to swim that also made him nervous. But that was what Izuku and Sanson were for. "Okay, the first thing you need to worry about is not to panic," Izuku told him. "People naturally float, so just don't flail around wildly." Otoko signed to Izuku. "That's not telling me how to swim, that's just telling me how not to swim." Yeah, that's true," Izuku said. One explanation later. After a short explanation, Otoko was ready to jump in. Sanson was already in the pool, waiting for him. It was very weird to see blue slime moving through a pool. Not swimming, just moving. Like she was part of the water. Otoko took a deep breath and jumped in. Splash! And he immediately started sinking. "Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic." Otoko did his best to follow Izuku's instructions while he waited to start floating. 5 seconds. Not floating. 10 seconds, still not floating. 20 seconds, not floating and running out of breath. Okay. Time to panic. Otoko started moving his arms rapidly, trying and failing to push himself upwards. Fortunately, he didn't have to struggle for very long. Sanson grabbed his waist and quickly pulled him to the surface, finally allowing Otoko to breathe. "Oh my god, Otoko, I'm so sorry." Izuku apologized frantically. "You must weigh significantly more than I thought." Sanson placed Otoko on the poolside and looked over him to make sure he wasn't still drowning. "We're gonna have to get you something better than floaties." Izuku started muttering about what he could use. "I'm gonna go look for some better options, I'll send someone to get you a towel, just wait here." Izuku ran back towards the house, leaving Otoko and Sanson by themselves. Otoko was disappointed. Despite his hesitation, he had been looking forward to swimming. And now, he would have to wait. Because of his stupid body. Once again ruining something for him. Noticing her brother's despair and pouted, as well as a slime could pout. Trying to think about ways to solve this situation as soon as possible. Then, she got an idea. She wrapped herself around Otoko's body, taking the boy off guard, before opening herself up and taking in air and inflating herself. Soon Sansan had turned herself into a big, blue, floatai. Go! Sansan told him. Otoko gave her an astonished look. Trying to non-verbally communicate the words, "Are you sure?" Sansan either didn't get the message or didn't care, because she thought he was taking too long and used her slimy body to launch him into the pool. Splash! For a second, Otoko was worried as he felt himself become fully submerged once again, the cool pool water engulfing him from head to toe. However, seconds later his Pat and pending sister Slime Floatai worked her magic and he floated to the top. He gave a sigh of relief, and now that he didn't have to worry about drowning, he could enjoy the water. It was cool, and nice to touch. He felt like he couldn't accidentally set anyone on fire here. It was official. He quite liked the pool. Chapter 25, Urabity's Cowl. Full cowling. Achiko groaned, relaxing on the couch in Izuku's office while eating some mochi. Izuku smiled. Normally his smiles around Achiko were awkward and nervous. But this one a little less so. "I'm glad you're able to relax. I'm sure hero training must be tough." "It is." Achiko groaned. "Mr. Aizawa is nice, but it also seems like he's on the verge of expelling someone at any moment. It's like there's a bomb that could go off any moment whenever we're in class. It's so stressful." With class being as stressful as it was, Achiko started coming over to Izuku's more often. For some free relaxation and free food. Did she feel bad about what could be perceived as taking advantage of their friendship? Yes. Did it feel better to feel like a rich person whenever she came here? Absolutely. And Izuku was more than happy to have her. Yeah, that sounds bad. Izuku knew the feeling. Back when he went to school, anytime he went even a little out of line, bad things happened. He was always on thin ice. Him, and him alone. And also, All Might is a terrible teacher. Achiko complained, taking a big scoop of her mochi to cool her off. He has to teach using a handbook and a script. And he's taught me nothing about how to use one for all. Well, to be fair, he didn't have to deal with the arm breaking. He could just use it right away. Izuku explained. Which is just so unfair. Achiko took another scoop. And it doesn't make any sense. Why could he use it without any problems and I break my arms? Well, I have a few ideas. Izuku took out a notebook. Firstly, it could be that the quirk is incompatible with your body. Many people are born with quirks that are completely incompatible with their bodies and have adverse effects far worse than the typical effects of overusing or misusing a quirk. And those are quirks they're born with. So there's an even bigger chance that One for All is incompatible with my body. Achiko leaned her head back on the sofa as she took in that possibility. It's also possible that One for All simply stocked up too much power. Izuku theorized. One for All increases in power with each user. But it's possible that One for All has gained more power than the human body could actually handle. Those both make sense, Achiko said. But either way, that just means I can't use it. That may not be the case, Izuku said, causing her to perk up. 1. It's possible that One for All may adapt to your body, or vice versa, the more you use it. But every time you use it breaks whatever part 1 use it on, Achiko pointed out. Well, that's where the next part comes in. Izuku continued. I got an idea while I was training Kiba. How have you been using One for All? Well, Achiko blushed as she remembered All Might's explanation, deciding to phrase it a different way. I just turn it on, and whatever limb I use it one gets powered up and explodes with power. Literally. I see. There might be 2 issues there. Izuku noted. Firstly, you can only use it at 100% so far. Your body obviously can't handle that, so what if you use it at a lesser percentage? All Might mentioned that. But he didn't tell me how to do it. Achiko said. He said something about an egg in the microwave. Izuku got confused for a moment, before eventually getting it. Oh, I see. When you put an egg in the microwave, the energy pools up inside of it. If too much energy pools up, it explodes. Oh, now that makes sense, Achiko said. What you need to do is start spreading the energy out through your body, at a lower level of power, Izuku explained. The more spread out the energy is, it should be easier to control it. Achiko thought about it for a moment, before suddenly sitting up. That might work. You can test it if you want. I don't think anyone is in the training room right now, Izuku said, looking at the cameras. Yeah. Let's go. Achiko looked down at her treat. After I finish my mochi. 8 minutes and 1 finished mochi later. Alright, try and imagine the egg not exploding in the microwave, Izuku told her. Isn't there a better metaphor? Achiko asked. Sorry. Izuku apologized. Achiko sighed, before readying herself. She took a bit of time to try and visualize it. Then, she turned it on. Power filled her body, her whole body this time. It was like every cell was being supercharged. But it was more manageable. She felt like she could take it. It wasn't 100%. It felt more like 5%. I think I'm doing it. Achiko grunted. She dashed forward and moved much faster than either of them expected, kicking up some winds behind her. Whoa! 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 Achiko stopped herself, almost losing her balance in the process. It worked! How are your legs? Izuku asked her. They're fine. I feel a little uncomfortable, but it's nowhere near as bad as using it at 100%. Achiko said. That's great. Izuku was extremely excited about her success. I wonder what you could do if you combined this with your gravity manipulation. And dash. Let's worry about just using this first. Achiko stopped him right there. She loved Izuku's enthusiasm, but she'd rather not be overwhelmed right after learning about this. So what do we call this? Achiko asked. This? Well, I actually did have a name in mind. But I didn't think you'd want to hear it. Izuku said sheepishly. Well, I don't have any better idea, so let's hear it. Achiko smiled at him. Besides, who better to name it than the guy who came up with it? Izuku blushed at the praise and credit he was giving. Well, I was thinking why you could call it full cowling. Full cowling. Achiko repeated. Sure. 5% full cowling. Izuku gave a sigh of relief. Glad she liked the name. Well, you're right about getting used to that first. If you can use 5% of your power like breathing, then you might be able to increase the amount of power your body can handle. You can use the training room if you want. I have a lot of equipment for Kiba and Fu. Feel free to use it whenever you want. Thanks, Achiko told him, walking up to the green-haired boy. It's nothing really, I'm sure you would have figured it out eventually, Anna. Izuku screamed due to Achiko suddenly hugging him. It's not nothing. You have no idea how much this helped me. Achiko backed up and grabbed Izuku's hands. In like 5 minutes you've taught me more about One for All than All Might has in months. Well, Izuku was once again turned into a stuttering, blushing mess. Achiko giggled at the boy's flusteredness. Thank you. For everything, Izuku. And while Achiko watched crashed, a little spider girl watched from the doorway with a smile on her face. 2 days later. Alright, the next match will be young Uraraka versus young Ishido. All Might called out the names of his 2 students. Mina smiled as she and Achiko stepped into the ring. Ready to lose? Are you? Achiko gave her friend a vicious, yet still friendly grin. The 2 girls took to opposite sides of the ring. Go! All Might called. Achiko ran towards Mina, as the pink girl came up with a plan. If she grabs me, then I'll be wrung out in no time. I have to use my acid to keep the distance. When she gets close, Mina's thinking was suddenly interrupted, but a sudden shout. 5% full cowling. Achiko shouted as power filled her veins. Vwash! Before Mina could react, Achiko was already in front of her. Wah! Mina panicked and sprayed out acid in front of her. Achiko made a sharp dodge and moved to Mina's side. She grabbed Mina's arm, activating her other quirk and making her weightless. Saturn! Achiko spun Mina around at speeds that almost made both of them puke. Throw! Ah! Mina screamed as Achiko threw her at high speeds, right out of the ring. Ga! Mina crashed right into a wall, outside of the ring. Ring out! Uraraka wins! All Might called the fight. Release! Achiko deactivated both her quirks. Mina promptly fell to the floor, right on her butt. Ow. Sorry. Achiko apologized to her pink friend. Whoa, did you see that? Kaminari called out. I didn't know Uraraka could move that fast. Siro said. Achiko, what was that? Toru asked her friend. Yes, young Uraraka, I must say I am curious as to what that was. All Might said. It's my other quirk. Just a lot less powerful and a lot less bone-breaky. Achiko explained. Izuku helped me come up with it a couple days ago. We call it full cowling. Bakugo froze. Did she just say what she thought she said? Young Midoriya? All Might asked. Well, I'll have to give him my thanks next time I see him. Wait, All Might, you know Midoriya too? Azui asked. Yes, we've met a few times. All Might explained. Wait one fucking second. Bakugo suddenly shouted. How do all of you assholes know Deku? Deku? Achiko asked. You mean Izuku? Yeah. That fucking nerd. Bakugo clarified. Oh well, we met at Nan, Achiko told him. Nan? Even when confused, Bakugo sounded angry. Yeah, none of your business. Achiko suddenly snapped. Oh shit, Siro whispered. Bakugo's hands exploded with rage, and he looked ready to charge in there and fight Achiko himself. Now young Bakugo. All Might reigned in the boy. People meet other people outside purely by happenstance. I'm sure that is what happened here. I met young Midoriya when he entered witness protection after providing crucial evidence and testimony to help take down the Yakuza once and for all. Bakugo froze once again, not believing his ears. All Might turned to the students. While I'm talking about that, now would be a good time to explain another important part of a hero's job. Witness protection. You see, sometimes villains slip up and give themselves away in front of civilians. These civilians either see something incriminating or find evidence that could be used to put away those villains for good. However, sometimes those villains have power and influence extending to outside just themselves. And as such, they would want to silence these people. As a hero, it's your job to watch these people until the danger has passed. This was the case for young Izuku Midoriya. For years we had been struggling to prove Yakuza's illegal actions. But young Midoriya managed to not only save a young girl from their clutches, but also gain video evidence of their wrongdoings that allowed us to storm their hideout and finally put that old evil down for good. Neat, so Achiko's boyfriend took down the Yakuza. Nice catch, girl. Mina teased her friend. Yaha. Achiko's face turned red. He's not my boyfriend, Mina. We're just good friends. Very good friends. Sir. Mina gave her the biggest shit-eating grin she'd ever seen. Bakugo had been frozen, deep in thought. What the hell has Deku been up to? His palms exploded, shaking him out of his thoughts. He'd ask him when he saw him. Hey, round face. Where the hell is Deku hiding? Bakugo barked. I'd say to look up your ass, but your head's up there 24/7, so that's probably the first place you looked, Achiko told him sarcastically. She didn't normally make comments like this, but given who she was talking to, she'd make an exception. Alright, that's it. All Might. Let me be her. Bakugo shouted, getting into a battle-ready stance. Please do. Achiko activated full cowling. All Might sighed. Looks like he'd have to keep these two off each other's throats, again. Young hero versus younger heroes. Izuku nervously watched Kiba's stream, watching the chaos that was erupting outside. He was more than happy to help Achiko improve and let her train, but this was outside. Achiko dodged one of Sanson's slime tendrils using full cowling, before immediately having to dodge another one. Kiba was right, Sanson is a nightmare to fight. Achiko thought as the slime girl was quickly backing her up into a cliffside. The girl was in her half-acid state, meaning she was especially deadly. Not to mention she couldn't exactly hit her either. She dodged some more of Sanson's tentacles, she found her back to the wall with Sanson's large figure towing over her. Allow me to assist you, sister. Kai stomped towards Achiko. The vibrations of his footsteps went through the ground, shaking it like a mini earthquake. The vibrations picked up through the ground and went right through Sanson. Suddenly she found it harder to control her liquid body. This is my chance. Achiko touched herself with her finger pads, making herself weightless. Astral leap. Achiko jumped up into the air, going higher and higher until she reached the top of the cliff. Release. Achiko stopped the effects of her quirk and landed on the edge of the cliff. This, however, brought her face to faces with Kai. Roar! Kai said rather than actually roaring. All three of his heads went right at Achiko. As you can imagine, it was completely terrifying to have three enormous Hydra heads, coming right at you with their teeth bared. So Achiko did what any sane person would do, ran back as fast as she could. In fact, she ran back a bit faster than she should have. Ah! Achiko felt a pain in her legs after just getting out of range of Kai's head. I panicked. I used too much power. Achiko grimaced. Then suddenly, the ground under her started shaking. Achiko jumped up just as the ground exploded, and Kiba revealed herself. Surprise! Kiba shouted, and I have one more. Kiba threw something at Achiko. Looked like a roughed-up human corpse. Oh, it was Fu. After dragging him roughly through the ground, he must have lost a considerable amount of flesh and skin. Fu landed right on Achiko while she was still in mid-air and bit into her arm. Ah! Achiko shouted out in pain as she looked at the regenerating corpse boy who was leaking blood like crazy. This is as gross as it is painful. Achiko needed to get this kid off her ASAP. One positive about fighting Fu though, she never needed to worry about hurting him. Sorry, Fu. I know you can't feel this, but I still feel really bad. Achiko apologized for what she was about to do. Achiko punched Fu in the face, breaking his jaw as well as several other things. The two of them fell to the floor, Achiko landing on her feet while Fu fell on his back making a pile of blood. I don't know what's gonna make me vomit worse, my quirk or his. Achiko grimaced at the boy. This unfortunately left her wide open for Kiba to tackle her off the cliff. Achiko saw the ground coming up quickly, and turned herself around mid-air, facing Kiba towards the ground. Crash! Ow, ow. Achiko groaned. Fortunately for her, Kiba broke her fall. Unfortunately for her, it did very little damage, and Kiba recovered much quicker than her. Kiba pushed Achiko, causing her to go flying once again. Achiko groaned. At least I'm getting some nausea training. When Achiko fell close to the ground, she used her quirk on herself, causing her to float, before immediately canceling it, letting her land safely. Well, maybe not safely. Because she was now surrounded by all of the children, except Fu, and she was about to throw up. Blah! Never mind, she was throwing up. Sanson was about to charge at her, but Kiba put up her hand to stop her. Wait, Kiba told her. We have to wait for Fu. We can't dramatically surround her unless all of us are here. Fu, get down here. There was a pause for about half a second before there was a sudden splat. Fu had jumped off the cliff and splattered on the ground. Great, now we wait for him to regenerate, Kiba ordered. To Achiko's surprise and relief, they all obeyed this order, although Sanson seemed annoyed by it. No other choice. I have to do it now. Achiko wiped her mouth and got on her feet. Oh? Trying to fight? Or perhaps run? Kiba laughed. How do you plan to dash? Achiko kicked off into a sprint, and the moment she did, she touched herself. Shooting star! Achiko shouted. Now weightless, Achiko shoots off like a bullet into the thick forest. However, Achiko hadn't quite mastered that move, leading her to crash and break through several trees until she landed in another clearing. Ow! Achiko groaned as she pulled herself up. Remind me never to fight all the kids at once. Ever. Ever again. As she was getting up, Kiba ran right up to her. Ha! Clever trick. You may have escaped from my siblings for now, but my speed far outclasses them. Kiba broke out into a monologue, giving Achiko time to think. There was a fallen tree right next to her, a big one. Achiko touched the tree, making it weightless, and quickly picked it up. Comet home run. Achiko swung the tree, hitting Kiba in the air. Curses. Kiba swore as she got hit further and further away. Achiko sighed with relief. Hopefully, that keeps her down, or just keeps her away from me for a while. Stomp! Suddenly a shadow loomed over her, as Kai had finally caught up. Ah, there you are. You are very strong, Ms. Uraraka. Thank you for this opportunity to fight a great opponent like you. Kai said. Ah, thank you, Kai, you are so sweet. Achiko giggled, praising the boy's manners. You're welcome. Now please prepare to be beaten. One of Kai's heads came down towards Achiko, but the brunette batted it away with her tree. Ow! Kai shook off the blow and kept trying to grab Achiko with one of his heads, each time getting hit with the tree. Seeing how this wasn't working, Kai decided to try something else. He stomped the ground as hard as he could, causing the ground around them to break apart. With her footing breaking from under her, Achiko tripped and fell on her butt, also dropping her tree. Aha! I have you now! Kai got so excited, he rushed Achiko with all three of his heads. Achiko, thinking quickly, used her quirk on the chunks of the broken ground beneath her, and when Kai came close enough, she threw it in his faces. Ah! Kai cried as the chunks of ground hit his faces and broke apart, getting dirt and rock in his eyes. He backed up and started shaking his heads, trying to get all the stuff out of his eyes so he could see again. When he finally did, he looked back down, only to notice that Achiko was gone. Before he could react to that, however. Thwack! While Kai had been trying to clear his eyes, Achiko had used her quirk to jump high into the air with her tree, before coming back down and slamming the tree on Kai's middle head. Kai stumbled back, his middle head was now seeing stars. Achiko meanwhile let go of the tree and used her quirk to lower herself gently to the ground. While the tree fell to the ground with a loud snap, breaking apart into splinters. Ow! Kai's left head groaned. That hurt. A lot. Kai's right head said. If you do not mind, I would like to withdraw from battle. Oh, did I hit you too hard? Achiko asked him, concerned she may have overdone it. No, I'm sure I'll be fine. I just need to go rest for some time, Kai said as he stomped away. After Kai had gotten a considerable distance, Achiko was immediately attacked by Sanson. The slime girl launched a surprise attack from the trees, grabbing Achiko with her giant slimy hand and hitting her against a tree. Achiko tried to grab onto Sanson to free herself from the gooey girl's grip, but her hands just went right through her. What she did do was activate her quirk on her though. Suddenly Sanson felt light. Very light. Her body felt completely different. And a world of new capabilities was open to her. She lifted herself into the air, bringing Achiko with her, before slamming her down onto the ground. Gah! The wind was knocked out of Achiko as spit and blood came out of her mouth. Achiko couldn't move after that for a good couple of minutes. Having to spend those minutes recovering from the impact, struggling to breathe, and coughing out blood. Okay, I think this went too far. Achiko was thinking of calling it quits when she saw Sanson in the air above her. It looked like the slime girl had completely forgotten about her, in favor of enjoying her new weightlessness. It looked like she was trying to fly by moving her body around. I don't really think I can beat her. My quirk only makes her stronger. If only I could make things heavier instead. Achiko thought. And then suddenly Okahako heard a noise, the same noise that happened whenever she activated her quirk. Splat! Sanson suddenly plopped to the ground. The slime girl tried to move, but much to her horror, she found she couldn't move upwards at all. What's worse is that the acidy parts of her were melting the ground beneath her, slowly putting her into a hole. Achiko was surprised, to say the least. She didn't release her quirk, so why was Sanson on the ground now? She, cautiously, approached the slime girl and touched the non-acidic part of her. It felt heavy. But not the typical kind of heavy, it felt like something was pressing down on it. Like gravity itself had increased its effect on her. Did I do this? But my quirk only stops gravity. It doesn't make it stronger, is this because of one for all? Achiko wondered. WAP. EWAG. EAHG. Sanson tried to call out to Achiko and ask her to stop, but making a mouth and vocal cords was hard with gravity pressing down on her like that. Oh. Sorry, Sanson. Make a squishy sound if you give up. Achiko told her. Sanson made a sound like a sponge getting squeezed. Achiko pressed her fingertips together. Release. Sanson felt the weight on her body vanish and she immediately started moving around, celebrating her freedom. Alright, now Achiko heard an ahem coming from her left. She turned and saw Fu was standing there. I think we should stop now, Fu told her. When Kiba comes back she'll probably be a bit less confident and a bit more punchy, so we should stop before your injuries get even worse. Achiko thought about it for a moment, she felt the pain and nausea course through her body and decided that Fu was right. Yeah. Let's stop here. Achiko sat down, taking deep breaths, and finally letting herself relax. Vroosh. Aha. Did you think you could get the best of me? Kiba dashed into the clearing. You may have caught me by surprise before. But now I dash. The fight is over, Fu told her. Kiba instantly deflated, all the wind being taken right out of her sails. Oh come on. Kiba stomped the ground in frustration. Sorry Kiba. Not everyone can have as much stamina as you. Achiko stroked the girl's ego. You're just too strong. Kiba's frustration dissipated, and a confident smirk appeared on her face. Well, I suppose that is a downside of being so great. Shiruku. Did you get everything? Shiruku jumped down from one of the nearby trees, holding a camera which she had been using to record the entire fight. It was a little hard given that you all kept dashing around the forest. But I did the best I could. Shiruku sighed. Next time, try to stay in the same area. Kiba was about to say something, but Fu had a feeling it would be something snarky and ungrateful, so he shoved his fingers in her mouth and broke them off using her teeth. We'll try. Next time. 10 minutes later. I can't believe you actually fought them all at once, Izuku told Achiko as he patched up her wounds. After getting back, Izuku found that all the kids were mostly uninjured. Kiba had a few bruises, but nothing much. Achiko took a bit more time to attend to, so she was currently in the med bay with Izuku. Yeah, I am never doing that again. Achiko groaned. They're not called overly powerful children for nothing. Izuku nodded as he continued to treat her. You're pretty good at this. Hachiko praised him. Well, I had practice, Izuku explained. Hachiko frowned, knowing exactly what that meant. Before the mood could get awkward, Hachiko decided it was the time to bring up the strange occurrence that happened during the fight. Well, something interesting happened when I was fighting Sanson, Hachiko mentioned. I think I increased the gravity on her. Izuku paused. But, doesn't your quirk only let you make things weightless? That's what I thought. But I definitely increased gravity. Hachiko was sure of it. Do you think One for All might have done that? Izuku brought his hand to his chin and thought about it. It's possible that One for All doesn't only boost your physical capabilities, but also your quirk's overall power. But you can't make things extra weightless. So perhaps instead it altered the limitations of your quirk? Izuku went into a muttering storm as he absent-mindedly bandaged Hachiko. Well, looks like that will keep his mind busy for a while. Hachiko smiled at Izuku's antics. I wonder how many secrets are in One for All. It's kind of exciting. And terrifying. All Might's not gonna be any help, so I guess it's up to me and Izuku to figure it out. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 6. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.